Prophet Marshall Occurrence, back at it. So this is day 6 of a 10-day fast. I'm halfway through. I'm through the middle of a 10-day fast. I didn't do an official video starting out with the 10-day fast, but I'm halfway through it. You know, I've been meaning to talk about it. I briefly talked about it a little bit, but I'm halfway through the fast. Just pray my strength. You know, pray that I be strong. Pray for me to be empowered in my soul, in my inner belly. And I'm almost there. You know, I'm in a new place, and I'm fasting in this new place. I'm fasting against any enemies, you know, in this new place. And that's how we're pulling it all down. We're pulling everything down by fasting. Fasting is the key. I cannot stress that enough to my subscribers and those who are listening. Fasting is the key. If you want to defeat these people, you have to crucify your flesh. You have to die to self. You got to suffer. See, one of the fruit of the spirits is long suffering. You got to suffer for a long time. You got to suffer through fasting. You got to apply the fruit of the spirit of long suffering that's in the Bible. There's fruit of the spirit. You can look that up. The fruit of the spirit. And one of them are long suffering. One of them is long suffering. You have to suffer for a long time. You got to suffer for a long time sometimes. And that's what's going to give you the spiritual breakthrough. That's what's going to give you the spiritual power to defeat these gang stalkers and defeat these Americans that act like they ain't do nothing to us. You know, this is how we're going to defeat them. We're not going to let them play like they ain't do nothing to us and it's all good and all of this stuff. And they, you know, nah. Like they got to find something with us and trying to find something. We going to destroy that position where they act like they got to find something in us and playing around our neighborhood and all in the woods playing around us and everything. We know all about that. Listen, we know all about psychological triggers and all of that. This is the veteran. This is the elite of spiritual warfare. We're not amateurs. We're not novice. New jacks. We're not new jacks. Okay? So that's why I got to fast this 10-day fast. When I come off, I'll be taking broth. For those who are new to understanding long-term fasting, your best friend is going to be broth. Low sodium broth with no carbohydrates and sugars added. No carbs and no sugars added and low sodium. That's going to be the ideal broths. But broths mostly will take you through the refeeding process. You got to look up the refeeding process and refeeding syndrome. Refeeding syndrome is when you've had too much sugar, too much salt, or too big of a portions or portions that the texture of the food was not able to be digested. You know, so you got to look up refeeding process, the refeeding syndrome when you want to do a fast longer than 2 days. You know, and this is the next level of spiritual warfare. See, on our side, on God's side, how we fight is fasting. You follow me, right? That's how we fight. I'm doing a 10-day fast. When you fast for more than 3 days, now you're talking. When you start going into 4-day fasting, 5-day fasting, 6 days, 7 days into a week of fasting, now you're going to defeat the gang stalkers. You're going to defeat these Americans. You're going to defeat these people in our neighborhoods. We're going to defeat the gang stalkers and the Freemasons. This is how we're going to defeat them. It's with fasting. It's with this fasting. This fasting is going to do it. So you got to understand that's what it's got to be. Because we got a lot of enemies out here in the world that's lurking. They're lurking, and they're using witchcraft. They're dirty little people using witchcraft out there, using telepathy, mind readers. They're losers. They know they lost America. They're butthurt about it. That's the condition of the battlefield, and you just got to understand that's how they're gonna be. That's how they're gonna behave. That's how they're gonna act, and you're not putting up with it. You're not gonna put up with these butthurt Americans that put themselves in this situation. We were innocent people. We're not to blame. We're not to blame, and we're not going to take the blame. They're not justified in their cause, and they're not going to find enough evidence on us to be justified in their cause. We're going to go into spiritual warfare and use our weapons. Like I taught you in the last message, we're going to point our weapons of fasting towards these people. We're not following American Christianity. We're following the Bible. And we're going to use our spiritual weapons against these very people who have been too consistent for that not to happen. That's why it's going to happen. We're using our spiritual weapons against them. We're unapologetic about it too. We're using fasting and giving offerings. Those are the two weapons we're using. We're not trying to do a whole bunch of other stuff. You know what I'm saying? We obviously we spend time in prayer. We spend time in worship, praising the Lord. We spend extended time in worship, praying in the Holy Ghost for hours and hours and hours and hours, 5 hours, 8 hours. How long you can pray in the Holy Ghost? Pray in the Holy Ghost as long as you can. Pray in the Holy Ghost as long as you can. That's what you got to do. We're going to use fasting. We're going to use spiritual offerings against the Americans. They decided not to pay me my money. They decided to fight me. They decided to hate us. They decided to hate me. And that's their position. That's their position they chose to follow. And we're not going to sit up and negotiate and talk to them and beg them to play the position of getting my money. Since they decided to play a position of fighting us, then we gonna fight back. It's that simple. And God is gonna back us. You know, I encourage you to go look up African ministries, African prophets, African preachers talking about spiritual warfare. Jamaican preachers, Jamaican prophets and prophetesses talking about spiritual warfare. And you're going to understand that out of that, when these people are consistent in their position against us, we have legal right, spiritual legal right to put them to death by spiritual weapons. That's what we're doing. We're not playing with these people. We don't think like they're everyday Americans. If they're consistent against us out here in these neighborhoods, out here in these stores, out here in these department stores and Walmart and all these other places, if they are consistent against us, we are putting them to death. Okay? That's one position. But our objective is, by spiritual means, we are fasting for escalation of wars. We're giving offering for escalation of wars against the Americans. We're not going to be in the physical war. We're fasting. We're playing a spiritual position. But We want escalation of wars as a result of our spiritual position. We want escalation of wars to get these gang stalkers and to get these Americans. Ultimately, this is how we're going to beat the gang stalkers. This is how you need to hear it. This is how you need to hear it. This is how you need to hear it. We're going to beat them with severe escalation of wars against the Americans. That's how we're going to beat the gang stalkers. While they looking at us, there's going to be incoming severe escalation of wars against the whole country, and that's how we're going to beat them up. That's how we're going to swallow them up. You see what happened, right? We had to escalate other wars to defeat the gang stalkers. You follow me, right? That's what we got to do. We got to fight with spiritual weapons until there's escalation of wars against the national American community for the objective of defeating primarily witchcraft community and gang stalkers. How can you fight them all? They know that. They know we can't fight them all. And we're not going to attempt to, because they played that game, because there's so many of them. The liability and the karma of that is we have to shut down the system because there's so many of them. They're stupid. You put so many people that something's still going to be done. You know, maybe you thought because it was so many people as Americans, nothing was going to be done. No, something's going to be done on this level when you use a lot of people. Maybe you didn't think there was a corresponding action to a whole bunch of people. The corresponding action to a whole bunch of people is the shutting down of the systems. I told y'all I was fasting against the food, right? You see what's happening with the cattle? The cattle in America has been the lowest since 1951. They started closing the Tyson plants, the Tyson Foods plants, like 3 or 4 or 5 days ago. I've been fasting against the food, the farms, and everything. You see what happened? The water has been the lowest it's been in decades as well. You can go look up that for receipts. The food and the water is the cattle is the lowest, and the water, one of the biggest reserves or biggest places for water, is the lowest it's been in decades. This is not normal. This is as a result of the prophet fasting against the food supply and the water supply. I'm fasting against the EPA water systems. Many of you don't even know what that is. So I'm doing a spiritual fast against the EPA water systems for it to be effective. That's a system. We're shutting down, we're fasting against the water system, the food system, and the electricity system. With the electricity, you have the Western interconnection, you have the Eastern interconnection, and you have the Texas interconnection. Texas has its own electricity supply. I'm fasting against all electricity in America, which is 3. It's the Western interconnection, the Eastern interconnection, the Texas interconnection. So that's 3. Yeah, so, it's not a game being played. Gang stalkers is not, I told y'all, they're not relevant anymore. They're not relevant anymore. We're not worried about no gang stalkers. You know what I'm saying? But we're addressing what we need to do to take care of the gang stalkers. We're strategizing, and we're aware of their tactics, and we're going to make people aware of their tactics. So we're hoping for escalation of wars. Like I said, I'm fasting against the electricity, the food, and the water. And you can see it being affected. I've been fasting against the food and the water. You can go look up all the stuff that's going on with the food and the water, and you can see it's already happening. And not too much longer, you're gonna see some. Hopefully, with the electricity, I hope and faith to God that by the electricity, blackouts around the country, we want all that to happen. You know what I'm saying? See, this is the what you might esteem as the dirty part of war. And even in spiritual war, when you got the spiritual warfare elite, I'm going to be using that term more often than I coined, the spiritual warfare elite. We have to dig into war just like military, which means we have to plan objectives, spiritual objectives in our cases, that affect these people. So it may seem cruel, it may seem dirty, it may seem hateful, it might seem evil, but we have to do it, just like military have to do it. They have to go into a country and fight war. And the main thing that a military does is they go in and affect, if they're lucky, they can affect the water supply, the electricity supply, and the food supply. And so that's what we're doing. And you can see that I'm effective, and I'm getting spiritual results, because I just started these fastings against the food supply and the water supply and the electricity supply like a little past a month ago. And now, Tyson is being closed. It's cut down thousands of jobs. Thousands of jobs are cut from that Tyson plant being closed. This is the less cattle they've had, the less cows they've had in America since 1951. The water, they're one of the biggest water supplies in America is now being is dried up, and it hasn't been like that in decades. So we're successful. We're successful. And you could just meditate on me as Americans and hate me for whatever you want to hate me for, but remember this is always going to be the narrative, no matter what you say and do. You Americans played with me first, and that's why I'm always justified in defending myself and fighting how I need to fight. And you're still playing with me. You don't think we know, but we do know. You're all in our neighborhoods. You're in this neighborhood where I'm at right now, and if you don't think I know, then listen, I know now. Okay, so I'm fasting against this neighborhood that I'm in and everything. I'm doing that too. Yeah, I'm covering this whole neighborhood in fasting. We're not playing any games. This is what gets the job done. Like I said, there's no other narrative. There's one original narrative, and that one original narrative is these people played with me first without cause. These goofy people in America played with me, and they act like they don't know why all this is happening. That's it. That's what it is. And the only way out for me is if I get my money. All my fasting will stop. Everything that I'm fasting against the Americans concerning, all of that stops if I get my money. But if I don't get no money, I'm going to maintain my position. Now, if I get money and you act like as Americans, okay, then the fastings that I have against the food supply, the water, the electricity, I won't do that anymore. The fastings against the American community, that will be gone. The fastings against the Americans in general, and in the logistics of their community and the infrastructure of their community, the fastings that I have against your community, all of that goes away when you get my money. Okay? That's how it goes. Now, that's far as I can negotiate. I can't negotiate no further than that. That's where we at. So for people that act like I'm not reasonable, that's as reasonable as I can be. That's as reasonable as I can be. So for people that, I have to say that because, these Americans will paint me like I'm a monster, like I just have it out for them, this cartoon stuff. That's not how it is. I'm defending myself, and I gave them an ultimatum, which is, I get my money and I stop the fasting. I stop the spiritual war against America. But if without any money as a grown man, it's just not going to happen. And the black community want me to get the money, and many Americans, other Americans want me to get the money. So I'm not the only one that feels like I should get this money. I'm not the only one. I am not the only person that feel like I should get this money. So I'm gonna maintain my position until the end. You know, if that's how they want to end, that's how they want to end, and I'm not gonna change my position. So it's not gonna be any way that they can manipulate at all for me to change my position. I'm not gonna change my position. This is how you gotta be. You do not change your position. So I'm fasting. I'm halfway through my fast. I'm happy about that. I'm not even hungry anymore. I'm to the point where I'm not hungry, so I'm doing very, very well. It's just now more psychological. You know what I'm saying? You know, you just got to dupe yourself out of thinking about eating and taking a break and all that stuff. You just got to kind of get past the psychological part of eating now. You know, the meditation on eating, the thoughts of eating. You know, but my body is like, there's no, like, my stomach is not growling. I'm not, you know, I don't feel this ravenous hunger. All of that is gone. You know, I've accomplished 5 days of fasting so far. So I've fasted for 5 days, nothing but water. It's no games, you know what I'm saying? And that's why I like to do videos when I'm fasting, to get the energy, to get the vibration, if you will, behind the fast on the camera and among the people, you know. And so in this season, this new season, this is probably the best big fast that I've done, you know, in this new season. But it needed to be done in this atmosphere where I'm at. And it now things are even better in this atmosphere. The Americans have a tariff war with Canada, and while I'm fasting, I'm hoping for escalation of wars that won't go well, and that, you know, there'll be escalation between Canada and America. We're praying. Listen, we're fasting and praying and giving offerings for escalation. This is spiritual warfare elite that God has in the last days for his glory. You know, these Americans now have picked a fight with the wrong people. They definitely picked a fight. And God showed them that, listen, he got his warriors too. He got people that will fight you right back. That's his people, and that's us. You know, we are the spiritual warfare elite. And you do not have to apologize to American Christians for your position. You are spiritual warfare elite, and you can feel that God is backing you. If you pay attention, you can see that God is backing you. He is. And, you know, so, you know, we don't feel like we're in error. We don't feel like we're in the flesh. We don't feel like we're evil or hateful. You know, we don't feel like none of that. We're fighting people back that's playing with us like it's a game. See, they trying to be famous on our side, and we're not letting them do it. It's over for them. And we're not letting them play any position where they trying to get fame and trying to stay relevant. Because soon as this goes away, the reason why they got to keep it going, because soon as this go, if they quit, what are they gonna do next? As gang stalkers, that's as exciting as this. On the same level of excitement, caliber, how I talk and how I carry myself, who else they gonna find that's like me to surround themselves with and to act like they in a war with? You know, they ain't gonna have nobody else out there like that. You know what I'm saying? So that's why they don't want to let it go. That's why they willing to try to die in this situation. We know, I know clowns when I perceive them. And we're going to humiliate their wishes and hopes to die in this situation like they're legends, and they're losers. That's what they are. The losers. The L is for losers, not legends. You know, and So we're just going to fast and give offerings and play our position so that these same people get humiliated in their positions that they think they're going to be in the days ahead, where they're going to fight us and play around us and die in this position and all of that. Nah, you ain't. We want God to humiliate those wishes and hopes that you die like Thelma and Louise or like Jesse James in a blaze of glory. Nah, you're not. I'm saying this as a prophet. I have faith in God that they're not even going to be able to die as some type of Jesse James characters or outlaw characters or Thelma Louise characters. None of that foolishness. We want all these positions to be humiliated. So that's what we ask, that God will send Gabriel, Michael, and the legion of angels necessary to humiliate these positions where these Americans that are against us think they're going to die like Thelma and Louise or Jesse James or Billy the Kid or some other kind of character. You know what I'm saying? You know, that's how we have to be, man. You know, because clowns will be clowns in America, where people now they see our level of caliber, and now they want to play a position like they villains, and they want their part. They want a part of our story. They want to be a part of our story. If you're high ranking like me, right, and you got intellectual property, they want to play the villain in your story for glory. For glory. That's why. And you have to realize that. That's what they want to do. So we're hoping for escalation of wars. During this time of my fasting, I'm hoping for escalation of wars. You know, and you know, I want you to pay attention what happens during this fast. I want you to pay attention what happens while I'm fasting. I want you to pay attention what takes place while the prophet is fasting. I'm 5 days into this fast, and now I'm past the middle of the fast, on the other side of it. I'm in day 6 now. I got 5 more days. Technically, I got 4 days and some change left. So I just got 4 days and some change left. I'm past the middle of this fast, and it is definitely against the Americans. This fast is definitely against the Americans. I mean, you should have knew that it was like some never spoken war, this real war that's going on that nobody knows about, that these Americans don't want to talk about, and their position in it. They don't want to talk about their position in it, and that's what's going on. It's a real war going on, and they don't want to talk about their position, but this is what it is. It's just not on TV. It's just not on. It's not on the phones. It's not in the media. But we're at war with these Americans, and it's real. And we're not acting like it's not real. It's real. It's real. Come to terms with it. This is not fake. This is not folklore. You know, what you're experiencing is real, and what's going on is real. God is real. God is real. Jesus Christ is real. The Holy Ghost is real. Yahweh is real. Okay, so I encourage you, if you're being gang stalked, I want to say this like it needs to be said. Prepare to start fasting for over 3 days. At least start with 4 days. I've done a 4-day fast before. I think my last 4-day fast was in California. But maybe I did another 4-day fast when I went back to New York City. But for sure, the last 4-day fast I remember was last year in California. So just start off with a 4-day fast. Start off with a 4-day fast and see how that feels. You know, get the feeling behind it. You know, But I noticed, as a person that tracks spiritual patterns in spiritual results, it's after 3 days of fasting. Once you pass 3 days, that's when you start getting real results. That's when you start really getting something done. This is when you start defeating these witchcraft people that want to be famous. All they rallied around me to be famous, and it's not gonna happen. I'm too smart. I already know that's what it is. So I'm gonna ignore them, and I'm not gonna give them any fame that they want. If you know you're basically famous, then everybody around you is in this community, in America especially, the entertainment capital of the world, they're reaching for fame. That's all it is. And so they heard of your notoriety, they heard of your fame, they heard who you was, and as far as how I go, and they just want to be a part of this story. They want to be a part of this. That's how you need to hear it. And so that's a goofy position that we're gonna put to shame. We're gonna humiliate that position. And it's hundreds of people that got that position all around this community. And we're going to humiliate that position, starting here in North Carolina and on out. So like I said, if you're one of my viewers and you are really the spiritual warfare elite, you probably feel encouraged, especially if you're being gang stalked. You feel encouraged to fast more than 3 days. It's not easy. After that 3-day mark is when you stop feeling hungry. And see, that's really when the breakthrough starts. That's really when you get on the offense, is after 3 days. Listen to what I just said. In spiritual warfare, after 3 days of fasting, that's really when you get on the offense. So when you start doing like a 4-day fastings, that's when you start getting on the offense as far as this spiritual warfare. That's when you start really attacking these telepaths, mind readers, and all these people that think they're on our side out there in the community. They're deceived, they're delusional, they're obsessed. They're not on our side. If they can't talk to us face to face, they're not on our side. That's how we look at it. We don't play no little goofy little Fruit Loop Toucan Sam games where you're in the woods thinking you're on our side. It's corny. It's a corny position. It's a format that we never agreed to. It's a format that is not like our personality. It's not like our style. It's not like our spirit and energy. It's not like our vibration at all. So, that's how they need to hear it. They're goofy, and we're not, but like I said, the fasting beyond 3 days to 4 days is what we're looking for the spiritual elite to do in order to defeat these people. This position is working. You got to try it, and listen, you got to get your life clean. You got to get clean before you start fasting. You got to start smoking weed, smoking cigarettes, cigars, whatever else you smoke. You got to stop doing drugs. You got to get clean, and you got to stop being promiscuous, lust, masturbation, pornography. All of that is out of my life. There's none of that consistently in my life. And when you fast like that, see, our enemies are not even aware that when we fast like that, right? When we fast like that, we shred these people to pieces. They're not going to last long. I promise you they're not going to last long. So you got to remember, you're dealing with a whole bunch of witchcraft enthusiasts, people that, especially in the South, in these places in the South, in America, they don't really have any real enemies. They ain't really never been challenged. They ain't never really been able to use their craft against anyone. So when they see somebody like me and these people rally these people up against me as the prophet, they had no enemies. They had nobody to use this witchcraft craft against, right? So they thought it would be a cute idea to use their craft against me. And they still think it's a cute idea. So what we gonna do is humiliate their positions. You know what I'm saying? Without even paying attention to them, because even beyond witchcraft, when it comes to witchcraft or mind readers or telepath, we're not among that community at all. We're not among that community. We are real military. We're spiritual military. Witchcraft is not military. Telepaths is not. They can play with that because they want to be like us. They want to be like me. Right? So they're going to act like they military and they're at war. We are at war. Our side is at war with them, but they're not at war with us because they're clown games. That's clown games, right? That's not war. Okay? That's not war. It's never been war. It's been a big clown game. We're at war. We're real military. So we don't think in terms of us being part of that community, these witchcraft, spiritual witchcraft people. Nah, I'm military. I've lived with real military. They have done real tours. I'm spiritual military. Right? So that's not my format, in other words. They're not in my lane. And they just too stupid to see it. They just too stupid to understand they're not. They're too stupid to see they're not in my lane. Okay, so, they want to be, they're wannabes. They're perpetrators, they're wannabes. What we call perpetrators back in the day. So they're perpetrators. Okay, so that's it. We don't care nothing about that. We don't care nothing about none of the foolishness that they do psychologically. We don't care nothing about that. We're performing for no person. We're performing for no person. We are in spiritual war against the Americans on a higher level because we're military. We're focused on these escalation of wars with the Americans. That's what we're focused on with our fasting. That's what we're focused on while we're fasting. We're not focused on back and forth with some witchcraft, corny little dumb, retarded looking community. We're not focused on them. They flattering themselves thinking we're a part of their community. Or we're the opposite of their community. They're not in our lane. They're not in our league at all. Right? And that's part of the karma for them, is everybody starting to see, well, they're not in the prophet's lane at all. And that's that, man. And ain't nothing they can do to manipulate that from being other than that. They can't do it. You know what I'm saying? So, I'm just showing y'all where it's at. Like I said, this is day 5. This is gonna be my official video for my fast until it's completed. I'm gonna probably do a video for the actual final completion of the fast, because I do it for educational and informational and informative purposes. For educational and informative purposes, to encourage you to fast against these people, because I know this is what they hate. I know this is what's changing the community. It's escalating wars. We're fasting for not to fight them anymore. It's so many of them, we don't fight them. We don't focus on them. We focus on what's going to defeat them all. And you know what's going to defeat them all? Instead of just focusing on them, we're going to focus on what's going to defeat them all, which is going to be escalation of wars, severe escalation of wars in America, against America, by, these other countries. Iran, China, North Korea, Russia, that's the level we're on. We're not going toe to toe with all these people over and over again, and all these different people that want to use their craft and want to try to see if it sticks to the wall. What they do sticks to the wall. We're not worried about that. Even if they win, we're not gonna stop. That's what I'm saying. Even if you think they won psychologically against you, you still can't stop. That's what it is. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna keep going. We're gonna focus on something higher than them, which is escalation of wars. We're gonna fight escalation of wars. We're gonna fight in spiritual warfare for escalation of wars, severe escalation of wars. Right? And ultimately that's gonna come back and affect their food, their water, all that stuff gonna affect the gang stalkers. So you understand why we don't focus on them directly, because they thought it was a cute idea to get a whole bunch of people against us. So now you can't focus on that, because it's not even a fair fight to yourself. Think about it. So why focus on something that's not a fair fight to you? It's not a fair fight. So why focus on it? You know, now we're going to focus on something that defeats them all, which is we're going to fight them like military. Literally. Only military is going to think about this. Witchcraft community ain't going to think about affecting food, water, and the electricity of a community. They're not built like that. They're not built like that. So, you know, so like I said, you know, we don't care about the hocus pocus that they doing, the psychological hocus pocus. We're not impressed. I'm not going to ever be impressed. We got too many wins to care about some random person and what they do in witchcraft. We don't care. It doesn't matter. They're never, whatever they doing over there is never going to be able to equate. It's never going to be able to equate to what we have already done as God's kingdom. It's too far gone. It's a lost cause, you know. And as far as them thinking they can beat us, that's a lost cause, man. You know what I'm saying? So they just out here looking stupid, and that's basically what it is. So we're gonna humiliate that position, even though they out there looking stupid. We're gonna humiliate that position. And but the main thing we focus on today, this is what, if you don't get anything from this video, this is what I want you to understand. The main thing we focused on today is severe escalation of wars against the Americans. Severe escalation of wars against the Americans is what we're focused on today, which means all the stuff on the news, all the stuff going on. You know what I'm saying? We embrace that. We invite that. We're content with that, and that's what we're hoping for. That God will escalate these wars against these people. They shouldn't have helped. The Americans shouldn't have helped them. The Americans helped these people. The Americans helped them do all of this, and it's not a secret. The Americans helped. Okay, we're not stupid. They helped these people. Okay, so what we supposed to do? What we supposed to do? They helped them. You know what I'm saying? So we declare them as our enemies, as we supposed to. You know, it's just cut and dry. It's just being real. It's what it is. You know, and if you know, the thing is they want us to try to give somebody in here the benefit of the doubt, like some particular people in here, to overall help their community, and it's not going to work like that. You know, see, when you use a significant amount of people, this is what clowns don't know. That's what all these clowns don't know. They used all these people. As far as how military see it, when you use all these people in any kind of cause, everybody has to suffer as a result. Once you use a significant amount of people in the community, once the Americans used a significant amount of people in the community, the whole community got to suffer. And that's how God sees it. Once it's a significant number of people, we can't no longer look at the nice, good people in America anymore, and who they try to put up in our face, and they put their children up in our face. It ain't gonna work. None of that's gonna work. because you used a significant amount of people nationwide against God's people, against the prophet. That's what you did. And you thought it would be cute for the community. You thought you would look cool to the community. But the repercussion and the karma for that is that now the whole community has to suffer because you used a significant amount of people against us. You shouldn't have done it. I'm not a magic trick. I'm not a magic show. You play with me, we going into war against your whole community by spiritual means, and that's what it is. If you think I'm bluffing, I already got credibility. See, the people in this new neighborhood that I'm at, all they just doing is listening around for entertainment purposes. That's how I look at it. That's basically what I equate it to. I mean, you ain't got no position that's gonna matter. You're a nobody in this situation. I mean, so as far as using witchcraft and thinking what it's gonna do something, or sitting around reading, it ain't gonna do nothing. This situation is too far gone by the time it got to you. By the time it got to you, as far as I go, it's too far gone for you to be any type of significant person or anybody of any kind of special caliber or anything like that. You're not going to be esteemed as anything in this situation, this present situation. What we want is escalation of wars. That's what we're fasting for. This is the spiritual warfare elite exclusively. You cannot get all these religious people on board. You can't get all these different denominations of Christians on board. It ain't gonna happen. I already know it ain't gonna happen. They're too doctrinized by the Americans for it to happen. So it's just a certain people that will be drawn to this page. It's a certain people that will be drawn to this channel that you know when you hear your own people. You know that I'm one of your people. And we are the spiritual warfare elite. And we're using our spiritual weapons against these clowns that think it's a game. That's the bottom line. So we're not on their side. They can't mold us to do what they want us to do. And it's none of that is working. See, what they thought is I'm like some old guy that's from a past generation of African Americans. And that's no disrespect to the past generation, but I'm a younger generation, and I don't think that stupid people are realizing that our generation is never going to back down. You shouldn't have picked a fight with my generation. Let's ponder that. You picked a fight as Americans with a younger generation, and it ain't going. Listen, ain't no way in the world you think I'm gonna stop. I'm not gonna stop. And if you don't have my money from a younger generation, if you don't have my money, then it's not going to stop. It's that simple. It's just not going to stop. Okay, so, like I said, man, these clowns are out there every day, and that's why we're escalating wars every single day. Every day we're escalating wars. We don't got no love for them. They're enemies, and it is what it is. They're funky dogs out in the rain, and that's how we're going to keep them, stinking dogs out in the rain. That's what it is, man. And we ain't giving no mercy to them. We ain't giving no mercy to them. So, like I said, I'm in a 10-day fast. I'm in a 10-day fast, and this is day 6 of the 10-day fast. So keep me in your prayers. You know what I'm saying? Keep me and my loved ones in your prayers. Me and my family in your prayers. Because they trying to gang stalk this house that I'm in. They don't think I know. They got people all in our neighborhood, all around. They don't think we know, but I know. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm a veteran in this spiritual war. So just keep me in prayer and keep this neighbor and pray against these people in this neighborhood that's gang stalking, trying to throw witchcraft at this house. And trying to throw all, using telepathy against this house, to think this is some spiritual event that they are invited to, these clowns, just pray for their downfall, you know what I'm saying, ultimately, but yeah, just pray for my fast too, that this fast finish good and strong. Like I said, when this fast is accomplished, I'm going to do a video to show you this fast accomplished for educational and informative purposes. So for God, you people, salute, over and out.